There, now we're live. Unfortunately, everybody's waiting for us probably online, and just so everybody knows, Rob and I have got a lot of stuff in common. So we're sitting here chit chatting like we're having coffee at Starbucks before the show. And
I thought we started.
I
I was
gonna
like,
say,
I'm not even going to ask. We're just going to go. All right, fine.
so, yeah. So this has been good. So we'll get to spend an hour here together, and we'll talk a little bit about what you do and your coaching and stuff like that. And I put it out there. So this is Rob Z, and I'm going to let him introduce himself a little bit more about what he does and stuff. And so I'll let you take it away, Rob. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and let's get ready to rock and roll.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be here. Great talking to you. Great to know you. My name is Rob Wentz, but my broadcasting name is Rob Z. Right, I was in radio broadcasting for 20 years. Adopted the name Rob Z. It just stuck, and I love the name. It's simple and it's catchy, and I stick with it. So, spent 20 years in broadcasting. A lot of time communicating with people, understanding how to ask the right questions, understanding how people tick, how they work. It's something that came with me, came with the territory of my life of like not understanding myself, not knowing how to speak to people, not knowing how to hold a conversation, not necessarily knowing who I was. And broadcasting taught me a lot of that unknowingly over 20 years. And I started a coaching business about a year ago. And when I was leading into my coaching business, one of the things that I realized was I'd taken all these skills, my broadcasting skills, my communication skills over the years, and I really needed to apply that in a different service a service way towards what God wanted me to do with my life. So as I became a Christian over the past 6 years, I felt God calling me to do more, to be more service-based, to really help people get through things that they need to go through. And I adopted this term, which isn't mine, but it definitely fits to me, making my mess my message, right? So the mess that was my life, the things that I had to work through, helping other people get through those things. So I started a coaching platform called Lit Coaching. The Lit stands for Lead, Impact, and Transform, because I feel like we really have to be leaders of our own lives. The term leader has been so misconstrued in our society, and we have so few real leaders to look up to. I knew I had to be that for my life. I have a son who's 8.5 years old. I knew I had to be that for his life. I had to be the man that I needed to be for him to see. I did not want to be the person that I was when he was born as he got older. I needed to grow and evolve and change. And that leadership concept really sunk in deep with me. And then impact, right? We have to make impact in people's lives, right? We have to go out into the world, and if we're going to be serving others, make an impact in their life. And we have to bring transformation, because God wants us to transform, be renewed by the transforming of your mind. Like, it's so important that we transform ourselves, that we change and look more like God as time goes on. So that's as far as like a mission goes. That is my mission. And to help people get unstuck is another part of that, right? So I have a podcast called The Unstuck Movement. I had a podcast for like 5 years. I had like 400 episodes, and I gave it up because it didn't serve a mission. It didn't serve a purpose. And I developed this idea because as I was coaching and as I was going through my own life, I was stuck at many different places. People that I work with are stuck. And I hear that word come up all the time. I'm stuck here. I'm stuck there. Well, if you want to get unstuck, first of all, you have to become a leader. You got to take personal responsibility. You have to lead your own life. You have to make sure that you're out there serving others, creating impact. And if you make that transformation, man, you will get unstuck from those places in your life. But on that podcast, I love telling the story. And I love having others come on. And Mark, I really want you to come on and tell these stories of how people get unstuck. So they're stuck at a certain spot, whatever that might be in their life, whether it's financially, whether it's relationships, whether it's addictions, whatever it might be. And they got themselves unstuck. And what was that process like? And then what is their life like after they got from that stuck point? Like, once you're unstuck, man, it's like you see the world in a whole different way. And we continuously, I think, throughout our lives can get stuck at different points and continue to have breakthroughs that take us to higher versions of ourselves. So as far as like my mission with Lit Coaching, it's to create vision for people's lives. It is to give people clarity in what they're doing. It is to encourage people to take action, to have accountability for what they do. Also to build community, man, because community, as we've learned from the CLA and a bunch of the other groups that I'm in, community is everything. And you've got to have the right people around you building you up and you also pouring into their life. That's so important. So as far as Lit, man, that's the idea. And just to cap that off, one more thing about it is the Lit logo has a fire in the eye. Like the dot of the eye is a flame, right? Because we all have a fire inside of us. God puts this fire inside of us. And if we stoke that fire, it grows and it affects other people in our lives, right? That's the Holy Spirit coming out of us. So if we stoke that fire, and a lot of people don't even realize they have this fire inside of them. They never tap into it. They never pay attention to it. They act like it's not even real. But when you start to like pay attention to it, it's like these gifts that God gave you, and you've got to use those gifts to help other people. You've got to use those gifts to serve other people. That's why you have those gifts. It's not to make money. I mean, that's something that will come along with it, but it's not to show off. It's not to glorify yourself, right? It's like, wow, I was given these gifts. I have to work and harness and maximize these gifts so that I can serve other people and help them.
That's powerful statements on there on all those fronts. And so let me add, so you unpacked a couple of things. So let me ask you about this. So you had a podcast that you said you had for over 5 years. You had 400 episodes of it. What was 400 episodes talking about?
So many different things. So I was in radio at the time, right? And I started the podcast just off my radio show. And the podcast was like, the concept was all the things I couldn't talk about on the radio, either because I, would get thrown off the radio, or I just wanted to talk about things more long form. So I just talked about stuff that was in my head that I was interested in. I talk about on that show. Then I interviewed other radio DJs. I was reading books. So I started like reaching out to the authors and interviewing the authors of the books. And then I started my ex-wife and I had episodes on there that we would do. My one friend and I love pro wrestling. So we'd have pro wrestling episodes. It was like, it was all over the freaking place and it didn't make any sense. And I got to a place with it. I got really busy in between radio and this coaching career. I did digital marketing for 5 years. And during that digital marketing phase, I got so busy with that. And I was spending so much time staring at a computer screen. And I became very disconnected from who I was. Right? I wasn't communicating the way that I normally did. And I kind of lost a part of myself. So I stopped doing the podcast for a year and a half. And when I decided to start doing it again, I was like, I'm not going back to that thing. Maybe I'll put it on a paid site at some point in time. Whenever I grow to a certain place, if you want to hear my old stuff, you can go back and listen to these 400 episodes. Mm-hmm. You can have Adam all you want, but I'm leaving that part of me behind. I need to start something new.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. So how that looks, and well, right now everybody has their new year, the new thing, the new whatever. Everything's new, and I'm not a big proponent of resolution type things. I am a proponent of goals, and I had asked myself this same thing even about this podcast. Where is this? Where do I want this to go? And do you have to have a certain niche in order for it to do? Does it have to be rebranded a little bit, right? Because I do the same thing. So there's times that I talk about myself. It'll be by myself. There's other times that I interview. And I started my podcasting just so my kids could have a legacy to look at. You know what I mean? That's the only reason I did it. So love that. So they can have my great grandkids I'll never meet say, that was my grandfather right there. This is how he believed, or this is what he did, or whatever that looks like. And that's what I wanted. And then it just kind of took off because, in my world, I just happen to know a lot of people, probably just like you are. So it's interesting to see that you had something. And then you said, nope, I had to let that go because I have to, whatever, I have to rebrand, because you do after a while have to find out, okay, it is fun. I like sitting and speaking with everybody, but am I bringing content out there that everybody can use? And for the most part, I haven't had anybody that's not enjoyed the podcasting as far as that goes, because now you can take this podcast that we do and put it on your platform and learn a little bit more about you personally, right? Yeah. And so I like that part of it. And so it was interesting to me that you said, okay, I had to do this. I'm making a break. And I think that's probably because you're coaching. You're probably trying to put your niche into your coaching and stuff. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. You're but you said that you had a radio show. So were you in the forefront of radio in front of the mic? Is that what you did?
Yeah, I was like the host, the DJ. So I hosted night shows, afternoon shows, middays. Then I did a morning show for about 5 years. That was right before I left. And it was just so much fun. And maybe I'll go back to it someday because I love broadcasting. Like I really do love it. And to give you more insight into like why I rebranded and why I restarted over again over the past couple of years, God's really been showing me like my purpose, like of what it is that I'm doing here on earth. And I think that old version of me, I was very purposeless. Like I had lots of interests, but I didn't have a purpose for what I was doing. I never even thought about that. I never thought about goals. I never thought about a vision. These things that over the past 6 or 7 years to become a big part of my life, I didn't have them back then. They weren't even on the radar. So I was talking about just all kinds of random stuff. And I kind of felt, of course, yeah, it's good for branding for the coaching. It's great to have a general theme for the conversation. But the theme means a lot to me. That unstuck thing means a lot to me because I was really stuck. And that unstuck theme for me is like everything because I want to help people. Like if I have an avatar, that avatar is me 10 years ago. That avatar is me, this guy who had a lot of potential, but just was not using it correctly or didn't even know how to seek it, didn't even know how to find it. So talking about the radio show, which is what you asked about. Yeah, the radio show the morning show was the most fun I ever had. I hosted that for 5 years and it was just a blast, man. It was just having fun. I always would kind of compare it to Seinfeld on the radio. It was like a show about nothing. We would just talk about random goofy stuff and laugh and, just random subjects and get people to call in. And it was just fun, lighthearted, good time. I thought like, it's 6 a.m. I hate being up at 6 a.m., but I'm in the studio. I'm supposed to be having fun. So I'm going to have fun because somebody's driving to work and they're miserable. Somebody's driving in their car and they hate going to work and they just don't want to do this anymore. If I can make that person smile at 6 a.m., then that's a pretty cool job to have. That's kind of how I looked at that.
Yeah. So that sounds fun. So like being in front of the mic, like a morning show. So was there music involved or no? Is it just kind of talk?
It was top 40. It was like CHR top 40, newer music. And I like that format because it was all pop culture. So first of all, I knew everything about pop culture, which I don't really know anything that's going on anymore. But it gave me the opportunity to talk about life stuff a lot. Because a rock station, you got to talk about a certain thing, different stations, certain subjects. But I felt like in that format, I could kind of talk about whatever. I probably talked for like 10 minutes an hour throughout each hour. So it was heavily music based, but also I was on there quite a bit.
Yeah, that's fun. I got interviewed one time in a professional setting in a talk radio show. They had me come in for active shooter and speaking on women's self-defense, right? And that was a fun. That's when I realized, wow, man, real proper equipment goes a long way. I'll tell you that for a fact. Yeah, right. Okay. And then you got somebody in the back, kind of mixing everything, right? And you got all these big screens and the cue and the this. And I'm like, man, this is freaking awesome. I want one of these in my house. And so that was fun, man, for sure. So interesting that that's your background. And then, so the coaching part, I'm sure life comes into play. So we talk about coaching. And that's one of the things I've done for podcasting in itself is I ask the questions now. So I got different, now that I have guests, I don't just say interview with so-and-so, you know what I mean? Because it's not as catchy to me, right? I'm like I had Justin on, right? And he lost 600 pounds. I was like, have you spoke to anybody that lost 600 pounds without surgery? And how much discipline that takes and what his life looks like and what that was. And so on yours, I put why coaching, right? Why we need it. And so I thought this is a good question, being that this is what you're going to be doing. And, the first question I asked is, did you have coaching yourself before you decided to coach?
Yeah, I've had a mentor for about 4.5 years now. Mm-hmm. That was a big turning point for my life. So when I was doing digital marketing, I was listening to a lot of different people who were talking a lot about mentorships. And I'm like, man, I need to have a mentor. So I was just kind of like asking God, like, just bring somebody into my life. Like, I don't know how to seek out a mentor. I'm not sure how to do that. Like, show me a sign, give me something. And my friend Jim this one day said, hey, this guy Ray's coming to talk about, I was setting up a little seminar for him. He's going to talk about like some weird stuff, but I think you're going to like it. You should just show up. And I was like, oh, cool. I like weird stuff. I'll be there. So I was there. And Ray's in his 80s. He ran grocery stores for half his life, and the other half of his life he was a business coach, but also he's like a spiritual guru, leadership guru, mindset guru, just an amazing guy. And he gave this presentation, and he, at the end of it, he said he wants to put together a mastermind group on the James Allen book, As a Man Thinketh. And I was like, I never heard of that book. That sounds interesting. I've never been in a mastermind group. So I opted in. We went through like 8 weeks in this book, which was mind blowing to me that like a book, that book is like 45 pages long, and we talked about it for 8 weeks. And we probably could still just keep talking about it because of how dense it is as far as the information that's in there. And after that mastermind was over, I said, hey, Ray, would you mentor me? And he said, yeah. So he started mentoring me. And that went on for up until COVID, right? Then COVID, he almost died. He had to get a major surgery. And we stayed in contact through that. And coming back out of that, we just became friends, right? So as far as like a coach goes, he's been my coach for a number of years. We've become like really close friends. And I feel, man, he was put in my life because he has given me so much wisdom that I don't know how I would ever gain it's stuff you have to live through. But like we sit down every Thursday. Ray and I sit down every Thursday for 2.5 or 3 hours and just talk. And he helps me with the business stuff I'm doing, the coaching stuff that I'm doing. We talk about life stuff, relationship stuff, spiritual stuff. So we read books. And that was my first real coach. He's a mentor. But then I found another lady, Peggy Caruso, who was also in the Connected Leaders Academy. I was just talking to her before this call. And she told me, I went and did a podcast with her once. And she said, she had been a life coach for like 20 years. She said, if you ever want to be a coach, I think you'd be great at it. I would love to train you. So a year went by. That was in July of 2020. And a year went by. My life was in turmoil. I was going through a separation, divorce, and I was not liking what I was doing with digital marketing. I just felt totally lost. I just felt like, what the hell am I doing with my life? And I was like, I'm going to call Peggy, and called her. I'm like, I want to do this coaching thing. And the coolest thing about it was, man, that she coached me in person. She lives about an hour and a half from me. She coached me in person for 7 months. But while she was teaching me coaching, she was coaching me. So she was helping me through this relationship, divorce situation that I was in. She was teaching me and training me in coaching, like really developing me as a person while she was training me. It was phenomenal, really a phenomenal. You should have her on. She's a wonderful lady.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, we'll reach out to her for sure.
And it was just so cool. So as far as me having a coach, like, I have a coach right now. I'm a part of Michael Faber's Unleash You platform, his mastermind. But then I have Peggy as a mentor. I have Ray as a mentor. I have an amazing therapist. So I have specifically one coach by definition, but a bunch of people in my life that like pour into me in different ways. And it's just meant everything to me. It's been so transformational.
I think that, well, I'll tell you one of your qualities that you have. I mean, I think you and I hit it off because we have some similarities in life, right? But you got this approachable type of vulnerability, you know what I mean? And so relatability, I guess, is another way to say it. And so it's been good to be able to, go back and forth with you and speak. Is you and I've got to speak about some real personal stuff, and I think part of coaching is just pouring out your story and other people going, wow, there's somebody else that has been down the road. And then when you find out your story isn't quite as brutal as what somebody else's was, I've spoke about this before. I've told you before that through my divorce, I had to do some anger management, right? because I'm already this type A freaking, off the chain dude. Okay. I just always have been. When I played football, I'm just always like, let's go. Right.
Well,
My
the cool
sons
thing
are always
about you,
like,
man, is I can tell there's that type A, but there's also the other side of you too. Like it's you seem like
I
a
do
very
have,
good blend.
yes, I have a teddy bear side for
Yeah,
sure.
man.
I have a compassionate side and I love on people that, and I'm kind of I don't know, what do you want to call me? Like if you're being bullied, I can't stand that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? The people that are the most vulnerable in our society, uh, mentally not capable, disabled. Elders, I can't stand elders being mistreated. I guess
Hmm.
because I'm on one now, but I'm the elder. You hope you don't mistreat. And so it's always been that way with me, and I think that the coaching part of me was always there, and I
Hmm.
never. So here's the truth, Rob, and the reason I think people need coaching, and I've never kind of went out to like be a type of life coach. I think because I have so many people I life coach anyway that have own schools and stuff like that, and an organization. Because I just have a lot of my story anyway, right? And so when I went down that road um, of finding coaching, I didn't have a coach in junior high school that that would direct my life. And so I went in. I was in a Lutheran school, and the coaching was good. I played sports. I mean, I played all sports, and I was very highly competitive type of guy. But then I went to Reseda High School, which I went from a school of this really small school of 20 people in my class to a public school, Reseda High, and I walked on the football field. And though that was brave enough as it is, because I just didn't know anybody. You're right. I didn't know anybody. These guys have been playing football together forever, and I walked on the field, and it was a brutal time for me.
Yeah, that'd be really
High school.
intimidating.
Yes, it was very intimidating. And then you're getting smacked around a little bit, and you're kind of the new guy. Nobody knows you. And I was like, man, this is a whole turnaround. But then again, I didn't have that coach that put his arm around me and said, hey, I know you. Hey, I know you walked on. I know you. And gave me that lift that I needed to go. It wasn't until martial arts that my instructor now gave me some acclimates on hey, you can do this, and kind of curve me. And so I think that the coaching part, what you have, and you're gonna, as you do life coaching, I went looking for this myself, and I have a mentor too. If I didn't have the mentor like you had, a matter of fact, I did. His name's Terry Brumley. I just did a thing with him 3 weeks ago. It's one that you should listen to, and
Cool.
he is my mentor. You want to know how I found him? See, you're a Christian, right? So God works in mysterious ways. And I was in the school. I had hope in my school for 6 months, and I'm drowning. Right? I'm like, man, I'm cleaning pools on the side. During the day, I clean pools. At night, I am running the school. And I started as a ministry, and then I decided to kind of branch down. I had enough families that came to pay rent, but man, rent doesn't cut it. Right? And I was everything. The janitor.
What was the school? What was the school for?
A martial arts school. So
Like,
I opened up my
arts?
first karate school, right?
Oh, okay.
So I went from church. We grew really large there, and then I opened up, and I said, man, I need a mentor. God, I need a mentor. And we were in Black Belt Magazine as School of the Month. They were doing the School of the Month thing. And so I'm School of the Month. And, they come in and they make you sound bigger than you really are, right? And give you a bunch of acclimates.
Right.
And then the next week, I'm drowning, right? And I'm like, God, you got to put somebody in my life, because I'm good at teaching martial arts. I'm good at doing martial arts, but I'm not good at business, man. I don't know what I'm doing. And all of a sudden, the next week, Terry Brumley School, it's called Taekwondo University in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm reading through his thing. This guy owns his building. And I'm like, and this guy's kind of coaching through his thing. And I'm like, I said, based on what I'm reading, he's a Christian. So I call up Terry and I said, hey, my name is Mark. I just read your article. I said, I'm drowning. And he said to me, we spoke for a while. I said, I feel like you're a Christian. He goes, I am. And he goes, I'll tell you what, you find your way out here, you'll stay at my house. and you stay here for 10 days and let me teach you the world of business and martial arts.
Oh, wow, man.
And I rustled that money together. He let me in his home, stay in his kid's bedroom. Don didn't know me, doesn't know me for jack. And took me from A to B, went in there, and he's still my mentor and coach today. You know, when I'm relying on stuff, and we were talking about what it was, and that just this little thing he said to me on the interview. This is how powerful coach is. This is what he says to me. He goes, yes, I'll take the acclimates of being your mentor and your coach, but the thing with you, Mark Cox, is you put everything I said into play. You didn't question, you just did.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, that's why you had me pour into you more and more and more, because you just, everything I did, you soaked it up like a sponge and you did it. It was so easy, so nice to hear the compliment. And I got off that. Now tell me, as a coach, I got off that. And I'm like, man, I don't realize the power that a coach has in the wording. And I don't find myself giving compliments out, you know, unless they're well deserved. You know, I'm not one of these patting you on the back, and every day I see you, you're like, you're born to win. You are the master of the disaster. You know what I mean? I'm a coach. I'm going to tell you what you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And you're going to either take it or you don't. How is your coaching? How do you apply that? You heard my story there a little bit. How do you coach? How do you bring somebody up? What do you do?
Well, from what Ray had taught me, right? Asking questions is everything. So this has been really, it's been powerful for me, for my own personal life, asking myself important questions, asking myself good questions. But really, when I'm in coaching, it's all about the questions that I'm asking. How am I leading that person to get the answer that they need to realize for themselves? I could tell them everything, but they need to say it to themselves. They need to ask themselves. They need to have the answers. They need to say those answers to themselves. So first and foremost, it is the questions. Asking, listening, active listening, and then asking the right questions. And then also, and this is something for me that I had to grow in, I'm still growing in. And I see the power in it when I'm doing it effectively, is the self-reporting. So when I'm doing my best at coaching, I'm not telling anybody to do anything. They're telling me what they're going to do. And then I'm just there for them to report back to, because that's how change is made. That's how people make change. You can't tell people to do stuff, because when you tell them to do stuff, they might do it and it might work. Most of the time, though, they don't do it, and then they have somebody to blame because it wasn't their idea. So helping them come up with their own ideas for what they need to move forward, and then being there to have them report those things back, right? So especially now with my coaching, I'm really try to be as, and it's hard to do, because I want to give advice. I want to help people. That's my goal, is to serve people. But this is what Ray is trained. This is how Ray shaped my life and has shaped my coaching, is you have to let people do the reporting to you. You have to ask the right questions, and then you're just there for them to give that back to you so that they can keep moving forward. Now, if they get stuck somewhere, of course, you then help guide them through those places, right? But one of the best things that Ray told me, and this is something that I hold true to, and it might not sound like it applies to all coaching, but it does, that life is happening. Life is either happening to you or life is happening for you. So when I'm speaking to people, helping them see how these things that are so terrible, they perceive as terrible, how they're actually happening for them. If something in your life is happening for you, then it's a gift that has been given to you so that you can see life in a whole new way, and that you can build the things. Because most of the time, what it comes down to, most of the time, when it seems like life is happening to you, it's that if you decide to take personal responsibility for what's happening, you're in control of your own life. There are things that you could do that you're not doing that could remedy the situation that seems to be holding you back. So in a nutshell, my coaching, I do really I do encourage people, and I do try to build them up as much as I can, because I think especially guys, get so little encouragement. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna blow smoke up somebody. Like I'm not gonna like lie to them, but I am gonna build them up in the sense that like, you're worth it. We're all worth it. We're all worthy and deserving of doing something great with our life. We're supposed to. Like life has purpose to it, and helping them find that purpose is important to me. So I do definitely encourage, but when it comes to being hard on somebody, it's that, like I just said, man, it comes down to the asking questions and then letting them walk that path, letting them report to me, because I'm sure you're like this. I mean, I don't know, you haven't said this, but I know you're like this. That if you tell yourself you're going to do something, you're going to do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If somebody else tells you you're going to do something, you're probably not going to do
Yeah, you can pop smoke for sure.
it. So that's it. Like if I can get somebody to tell themselves that they're going to do this thing and this is when they're going to do it, then my job is just to have them, just to be there so they can report that to me, because that's how we grow. And that's, if you get somebody to start to do that intrinsically in their life, then I don't even need to coach them anymore, because now they're their own coach, because they've learned how to be responsible for themselves. And they've learned that if I come up with the plan, then I'm going to stick with the plan, and that's self-esteem, right? So also speaking about that. So if somebody's not keeping these promises to themselves, why is your self-esteem so low? Why is your self-confidence so low? Why are you feeling like so defeated? It's because you've created a bad relationship with yourself, because you're telling yourself you're going to do something, then you're not doing it. So what kind of friend is that? If you had a friend, now this is something I do talk about often in coaching with people who struggle with this. And I still struggle with it. It's not like I don't struggle with it either, but it's good to have the reminder of always talking about it. That if you had a friend that made promises to you and then never followed through on the promises, you'd stop being friends with that person. Unless you also had low self-esteem, then you might have a codependent, miserable relationship together. But if it's you, right? We don't think about this. If it's me breaking promises to myself, then that's when you start to like hate yourself, because you don't like this friendship, this relationship that's going on with you. So helping people see that is so important. And that's often the biggest issue we're having, is we're not keeping, we know we're supposed to be living a certain way. We know we're supposed to be doing things a certain way, and we're not doing things that way. We don't have any structure to our lives. We don't have any vision for our lives. We're not setting goals for our lives. We don't have accountability for our lives. And those things just kill our self-esteem. It just drags us down. So helping people find that is, I think, one of the most important things that I try to do as a coach.
Yeah, so that's powerful what you're coaching. Now, do you have a niche that you look for coaching? Is it anybody looking for? Is it male based? Is it male female based? What does your coaching look like?
So as far as like my target of who I would like I said, it was like me 8 to 10 years ago, somebody who was an entrepreneur in their business, who wanted to do more but didn't know how to, was maybe like excelling in their whatever company they were working for, but they wanted to do it for themselves. I think anybody who's like really excelling in a company, like they're called to create something for themselves. So I'd love to work with entrepreneurs and then entrepreneurs who are on that path, right? So like I said, I'm fairly new into coaching. I'm a year into this thing. So I look at myself as like, okay, I've been building myself up. I've been in personal development for myself for a decade. I want to find me, who is trying to create something brand new. And this is how I vision my coaching, right? As I move on in my path. So say I'm 5-10 years in, that I want to find people who are, if I'm 10 years in, I want to find people who are 5 years in, because I want to be able to help people work through what I worked through. And so right now where I'm at, I want to help people who are ready to jump out of their business and create their own business. They're ready to jump out of their corporate job or whatever it is and create their own job, or they've jumped into the entrepreneur space, but they're floundering. They haven't
Correct.
found their vision. They haven't found what they're doing yet. Those are the people I really do love working with, and men in particular. But I end up working with all different kinds of people. So that's my target. But I work with business owners. I work with moms who are trying to find purpose in their life. I mentor and work with some teenagers and college students because I also find tons of value there. I love being able to help them and bring them up. Yeah. So as far as my target goes, I do have a specific target, but I still find that there's so much value in working with all different areas in life. But as far as like, if I could help somebody find their vision, if I can help somebody learn how to take action and set goals, and then help them find their community, the tribe of people they need to be with, and build their own community, that's who I really love to help, because those elements for me have meant everything to me.
So let me ask you this then. So, because part of the podcast is to get you, get your story and stuff out there on what you do. How do you find clients? Are you finding that there is people that are looking for the coaching, or do you find that when you get a client, they're like, I had just heard, I've never thought about a life coach before, and I had just heard something say, and then this kind of clicked? Because in this realm, Rob, I mean, I was very transparent with a lot of people, right? I have to have a real vibe with somebody if I'm going to take the information in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like in my world, right? So law enforcement, my military guys. It was so yes, being in law enforcement for a while is one thing, but when I went to a military base, I didn't wear the uniform, and I had to. And I remember saying to myself, how am I going to relate to these guys? I haven't chewed the same dirt as them. Now I've got to go in there and teach them some weapon stuff, right? So, I picked the biggest and baddest boy in the room, and I demonstrated on him. Because I felt if I can get his respect, I'm going to get the room's respect. And that's what I did. And now him and I are the best of friends now. Matter of fact, he's our lead defensive tactics instructor in Krav Maga on the East Coast. This soldier, this is a ranger. This is one of our bad boys, right? And him and I are the best of friends now. But I remember myself, I'm like, and these guys aren't gonna, not gonna listen. I got a little leg up because I did some law enforcement, but I haven't chewed the dirt. I haven't had bullets zinging over my head and all this other kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Watching my friends get blown up and shit like that. And so that's what I did. But I went searching for the coach and a mentor. Mm-hmm. Do you find that's where your clients are? Are they searching? Or is it sometimes they just kind of heard and said, I wonder if, because listen, I'm telling you right now, man, there's a broad thing of like coaching, right? It's like, man, you get bombarded with so much, right? That it's hard to go, okay, where do I direct myself? Okay. Yeah. Or is it word of mouth? Or is it somebody looking for us, say, hey, man, I got a good friend. His name is Rob Z. He does this live coaching. I think that you should give him a call, see if you're a fit.
It's some of that. So it is some referral based. A lot of the people that come to me specifically and want coaching have started their own business. This is something I've found repeatedly. It's a mom thing too. I've had a decent amount of moms who come to me who, they either have kids that just left the house, or they have young kids and they feel like they have to like make their mark. They want to create a business. They want to create something here. This is really, I think, what it is, man. Most of the time, the people who reach out to me are trying to create a business. They're in the early stages of, or have just created something, and they're trying to grow it, right? And for example, like one woman that I work with, she is getting her certification to do group fitness, and she started a group fitness school. Another lady is an event planner, and she has an event planning school. Another guy I work with has a junk removal company, and he's in the first couple of years of starting this junk removal company. So there's a bunch of different walks of life where people are stepping in. But what I see is what I hear is they want to start something and they want to grow something for themselves. But the truth behind that is what is behind that, because that's the real key of figuring out what is behind this thing. They want to find their own thing. They want to create their own business. They're trying to develop as a person. And this is my journey. And this is why I know what this is. I didn't know the reason I wanted to jump out of my radio job to start my own businesses is because God was calling me, first of all, because God wants you to grow. God wants you to change. God wants you to evolve. God needs you to learn. And God, you have to go through challenges. And I think we're, as we might be afraid of challenges, we need them. And we don't know that we need them, but we need them. So we're like doing these things. The people that I work with, it seems like they want to create the business. They want to do this, that, and the other thing. But behind it, and what always comes up is always personal stuff. It's all these personal roadblocks they're dealing with that is keeping them from getting to be the person that they want to be. So building that business is going to help them become the person they want to be, because it's going to help them be independent. It's going to teach them a lot of personal development lessons. There's a lot of things they need to learn, just like you and I, a lot of things we need to learn as we go through building these things. So the personal side of it is everything. So when I do coaching with people, oftentimes the topics that we talk about, they are business related, but it's all personal development driven. And as I have people come to me, like I said, man, it's usually somebody who's trying to create something new, or somebody refers somebody. But in that case, when somebody's referring somebody else, they're going through something in their life. And, thinking about that situation too, most of the people that get referred to me, they are in the midst of starting something new. Now, sometimes it's relationship, but I hear it so often. And when I hear the stuck thing so often, it is, and I don't know if it's like because our culture right now pushes entrepreneurship so much, but so many people want to be entrepreneurs. They want to be independent. They want to have either a side hustle or their own business that is their thing. But behind that thing is like, I need more challenge in my life. I need more growth in my life. And that's I think the best way to get it. Now, also following God, right? And getting closer to God. That's also like, talk about the ultimate growth path that you can go on. Correct. So I don't push my beliefs on anybody, but it's easy to talk about the biblical. It's easy to talk about biblical beliefs without ever saying the words. So oftentimes I'll ease my way into that, but I just find that people are, to answer your question, people are searching to grow. They really want to grow, and oftentimes they're looking to grow a business, and behind that is they need to be more themselves. They want more out of themselves. They want more out of life. They're searching for like purpose in life and meaning to what they're doing.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I think that for myself, yes, I think that because even before I met you and stuff like that, I had been searching now for the next level of stuff that I want, right? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that can do things, right? So the podcasting thing, that's the first thing I went after, right? How do I grow this, and how do I is it time to monetize? Is it time to make things more with it, or is it just going to be a hobby? Those were my questions for 2023.
Yeah.
Am I going to keep it a hobby, or am I going to take it to the next level?
What are you going to do?
Well, I think because I wrote a book now, that I'm going to take it to the next level, right? And so I have to hone the skills in on this is just a whim. I just think that I have a natural ability to tell stories and to communicate. It's just because I've been on the mat for 40 years. I've taught. If I get on the martial arts mat, it's gold. I don't have a problem getting in front of big groups of people and talking.
Well, think about martial arts too. This is something I was going to include, man, because it's so important. I've been taking, you and I talked before, I've been taking jiu-jitsu for 2.5 years, right? And I didn't realize when I got into jiu-jitsu what I got into it for, because I didn't know the personal growth that was going to come from it. Right, and the life lessons, dude. The life lessons are insane. The stuff you learn on the mat, like in jiu-jitsu, it's so insane. I've gained so much wisdom from jujitsu that I never would have guessed would have happened. So as I look back and I'm like, wow, man, I got into this thing because I wanted to like learn how to choke somebody out.
That's right.
And I knew I needed to have I wanted to have like some tough guy friends, you know? So, but then through that, I'm like gaining all of this personal wisdom of discipline and of, the simple stuff is the most important stuff. Doing the same thing over and over again, doing the fundamentals over and over again is better than like knowing all of this other crap. It's like getting really good at a specific thing or, mentorship. Jiu-jitsu is crazy for mentorship too,
Oh,
right?
my goodness.
Because you're
For sure.
constantly, I'm a blue belt, so I'm constantly helping white belts, but there's also purple belts and brown belts who are constantly helping me, and we're in competition, but we're cooperating. And I love that concept too, because when it comes to business and entrepreneurship and life, like you need to be in competition, but also cooperating. It's a fun balance. And when you find the right people that you can roll with, like in business, like you can roll with in jiu-jitsu, when you find those people, they push you, but they're working with you. And I find that like yourself, CLA, people in these groups, that's what that is. I feel competitive with them, but I also collaborate with them and cooperate. It's like a really great balance. And that to me has been like one of the biggest things that jiu-jitsu has taught me.
Oh, jiu-jitsu. So I've been doing it for my martial arts. I've been doing for, I got my black belt in 1987, my first one.
Okay.
So I started in 1982, right, is in my training. And then I got my first black belt in 1987 in Tong Soo Do. And then that's when I decided that, hey, I'm going to do this for a living. Because I got into martial arts because I was already kind of a tough dude. I was bullied, and I wasn't a jolly ollie fat kid back in the day, man. You open your mouth and I'm going to shut it. That's just that's how I got through things, because that's just what worked for me.
Yeah.
So I thought it worked. And then I thought, well, I'm going to, my brother's the one that got me into it. And I said, well, I said, I'll get in there and get in fight. And man, I'll tell you, I found out I wasn't the baddest boy in the room right out of the gate. I mean, this is the blood and guts era of karate that I went through, in the 80s. Okay. This was like knuckle punches, and fight class was, this is how you learn how to fight. You showed up, and if you were a pussy, that's right. If you were a pussy, you wouldn't come back the next week. All right. That's just the way it was. Right. The tough guys are the ones that continue to come all the time, every Friday. Right. And we just left bloodied. Not the best teaching, but definitely, who the tough guys were in the room, or who we thought were tough. And then I went into Krav Maga also. So I have a very high rank in Tong Soo Do, and then Krav Maga. I've been doing that now for 22 years, and it was a very self-offense art, man. You get in there, you get dirty, and you get after it. Then I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time, but I'm not serious because I didn't have the right coach. Then Sergio comes along. I had blood clots, and from an injury, I almost died, right? 2 blood clots here about 3 years ago. This is when I had to make some decisions. Hey, man, I'm going to lose 110 pounds, and that's what I did. And then I'm on blood thinner, so I can't take contact to the head. And that my stand-up fighting, I couldn't do it. I felt like less of a warrior. Then this jiu-jitsu comes around. And I'm like, I found my warrior purpose again, because I can get on the mat and get after it and not worry about getting punched in the head. I might take a couple licks here and there, but nothing like a fight, right? And so, yes, and then the life lessons, right? So I'm 61, and you would think that...
I'd never guess you're 61, by the way.
No, really?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And so I getting after it with these guys, and I'm like, okay. Then I earned a purple belt, right, in 2023. I'd been a blue belt forever, 10 years, but just dabbling. Then I realized how much I didn't know. And then our coach, Sergio, right, he's a cop. He's a combat ranger, and he's a world champion. But he has a mindset. And then the lessons of jiu-jitsu came around, just like you said. Because when you're in jiu-jitsu and someone's trying to choke the shit out of you, you either find a way out or you tap out. That's just there. You got 2 options. Mm-hmm. And you got the same thing in life. You either find a way or tap out. One of the 2. So you tap out in order to reassess and re-go, or you tap out just because you couldn't handle the pressure.
Yeah.
There's 2 types of tap out, right? The ones that there's so much pressure that you can't handle it anymore, and you go. that you have to. There's just no way you're going to snap your arm or whatever you're going to do. You're going to go to sleep. And those are the lessons, right? When you're in these predicaments on what jiu-jitsu taught me, it's taught me more business lessons than I ever thought ever would happen. And tell me you don't use that in your coaching. Hey, listen, when I'm the jiu-jitsu mat, man, and I find myself thanking God for that lessons so much in as far as martial arts goes. And I think that's what's going to make you an awesome coach too, because people don't have to do jiu-jitsu to listen to the stories of jiu-jitsu or martial arts in general, right?
Yeah.
Because it's about discipline. And if you can get people to be disciplined in life, their mindsets will change. That's just the way it goes. And and the other thing about jiu-jitsu, tell me this isn't true about coaching, right? Or who you coach. In order for them to be get anything from you, they're going to have to show up every week, correct, and have a conversation with you. Right. You don't get good at jiu-jitsu by not going. You don't get good at jiu-jitsu or Krav Maga by not going, by reading a book or watching YouTube. You can watch YouTube till you're blue in the face, but until you got another man that's going to push you, or woman. Trust me, I got some badass women up in here, and that are going to push you, or some little people. All of a sudden, I'm this big old guy, and I'm like, I got this little wiry dude just jumping all over me like a spider monkey, and and they got these little skinny ass arms, and all of a sudden it's around your neck, and you're like, oh man, I just made a major mistake right here, and so these are the lessons I think that's going to make you even more powerful. But people do have to show up, correct?
They have to show up. Definitely, and they have to be challenged. I think that's another lesson from jiu-jitsu, is that you can show up to jiu-jitsu and not challenge yourself. You can roll with the same people all the time, pick the white belts, pick guys you can beat, and like just kind of skate through. You're not going to learn anything. Like you're going to actually get a misconception of how good you actually are. So I think that's another lesson too, is like to constantly be challenging yourself, because I love that about the jiu-jitsu. When you're in the room, when you're just rolling, I could pick the guy I roll with all the time. I could pick a new white belt and show him a couple of things, or I could go over to the brown or black belts and just get my ass handed to me.
That's correct.
And I'm going to learn some stuff. Like the higher I challenge myself, the more I challenge myself. So another thing I think that's huge too is pressure. I never knew what it was like to suffocate. Like when you're in when you're in side control on the bottom against somebody and they're just crushing you and you feel like you can't breathe. Like I'm not even being choked, but I feel like I'm going to pass out. And then learning like, oh, I just need to freaking relax and breathe and just be smart about what I'm doing, and I can get out of here. That's such a life lesson. Like, because it feels oftentimes in life like I was just telling you about this Facebook situation, right? My Facebook's hacked and they're pulling money from my PayPal account. And I'm like so pissed. I'm so mad. And I'm like getting so overwhelmed by the whole thing. And you went through it too. So I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I let it like overwhelm me. And I just threw my hands up and like, just screw it. Just forget it. And then I was like, no, I just need to like chill and take it step by step and it'll work itself out. I just need to like pay attention to it and work my way through it. And that's very much a lesson from jiu-jitsu of like, right, when I feel like I'm about to suffocate and I can't breathe anymore, I just need to breathe and then slowly do what I can to get myself out of that situation. And another great lesson I was thinking while you were talking was that, oh, dang, I lost it. It was because there's something in jiu-jitsu that really, I can't think of what it is right now. Damn. But I gave you one, so that was a good one.
Well, I think that pressure is it, man. And that's my game. I get somebody in side control. I'll try and make it so they can't breathe.
Yeah.
And
it's hell.
and it's weird, right? So my instructor, he's he's smaller, right? Smaller in stature. But I'm telling you, when he lays on you, oh my God, it feels like he's 1,000 freaking pounds.
Right.
And it's just like, he's all the pressure that you're put under and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that it's going to make you even a better coach on the lessons that are learned on the mat. I mean, I can't find anything right now that is more more challenging for myself, right? So in 2023, so I tried last year. I went into a couple tournaments, but man, it's very hard to find super heavyweight competitors. It's very hard to find 60-year-olds that want to do any competing. Okay, because they're just like over it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I got to try this one time. I've got to get in front of somebody else and test my skill.
Yeah.
So in 2023, so I'm going to try and drop down to heavyweight. That's where I'm going to try and get into. And then I think I'm going to go into the masters rank of the 50-year-olds. Nice. Now, there's some bad boys in the 50-year-old divisions, in purple belt division. All right. It's not a joke. I mean, these guys could be been doing this thing for 45 years. You know, you just don't, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
You know, these older guys are, you know, my biggest thing is having knee replacements and stuff is starting in the stand-up position, right? Or just kind of pulling guard and stuff like that. I don't like to play the stand-up game very long because that's where my weakness is, but because of injuries, but
yeah,
trying to find somebody, but I have got to try and test my skill. And I think the other thing in is to let ego go. And I'm sure you find this in men, Rob, especially anybody that comes in. And first of all, when to come into a martial arts school and put a white belt on, and you are in high regards in what you do, maybe a doctor, maybe a director in Hollywood. I mean, you're the man. When you walk into your work, you are it. And when you come into this world, you ain't shit, right? You got white belt lives don't matter, bro.
Right.
Okay. And
it's intimidating. So right? Intimidating.
And then all of a sudden you're getting crushed, and then you're getting crushed by you're trying to be all this macho. And then the more macho you are, the more crushed you get, right? It's just a weird phenomenon, right? And then all of a sudden you got women choking you out, right? And you're just, and your male ego can't take it. You're like, what the frick is going on? And so your ego is going to allow you to learn, or you're going to quit, right? That's the next thing in jiu-jitsu, right? Am I coming with a clean slate? Am I coming here to learn, or am I coming here kind of with a chip on my shoulder, arms across? I'm going to kind of listen to you. I'm going to kind of not. And I think that in the coaching world, I've seen this so many times as a martial arts instructor. Okay. I've been challenged as the instructor. I can tell you, as I've gotten to be an older martial artist, I can feel like even my own students that's been with me for 30 years, you know, it's funny. I'm here and I've had kids with me here. Now, even my own son, my 30-year-old son, man, he's a force to be reckoned with. You know, I have to pull a dad card on him every once in a while to be beating his ass. But, right. And so I'm here, and I get this much better, and my students are doing this. And then all of a sudden we're here. And I have students now that become my workout partners and become peers over me just being, you know, sensei, because I'm getting after it with them every day, right? Because I'm not rolling with the 60-year-olds, man. I want the 30-year-old freaking combat Marines that are not going to give two shits about giving me their best. Yeah. I'm not about playing daddy. I want you to put me to work, pressure me, and can I still handle the pressure at my age?
Right.
Right.
That's awesome.
That's what I like.
Love that.
I thrive on it. And I got some bad boys in here, boy. And I'll tell you what, that's the next thing about jiu-jitsu. I don't care what color that belt is. White belts can be very dangerous. Blue belts can even be more dangerous because now they have a little bit of knowledge. Then purple belts, like myself, will try stuff. You know what I mean? And then you're kind of looking at that black belt going, man, they do things so effortlessly, man. They have honed a craft. That's why it takes 10, 15 years to get a black belt.
It's the 10,000 hours. It's everything.
That's right.
It's in everything you do. It's really interesting. The 10,000 hours is so interesting because, like broadcasting, right? So I have probably 20,000 hours or more in broadcasting. So it just feels so effortless. I love to do it. And it's just, I don't even really have to think about it half the time, which is not like I shouldn't. I should think about it and plan it. But like, it's just fun. I just love to do it. So jiu-jitsu the same way. Yeah, you roll with somebody who's a black belt. It's like, wow, man, they're not even. Did they even take a breath yet? That's like right. It's like they're. I mean that like they don't even sweat. They don't even seem like they're struggling, and I'm like a pool of sweat dying over here. It's so wild. But I love that because I think to myself, okay, Rob, why are you not in business, right? Why are you not where you want to be in business yet? Well, you've only had your own business. You've had a digital marketing company for 5 years. You've had your coaching company for a year. You're not there yet. It's not so I feel it gives me like some breathing room of right, I don't have my 10,000 hours in yet. I don't have 10,000 hours of sales calls. I don't have those things that I know when I'm around somebody who's like just killing it. I'm like, right, what did they do to get there? They put that time in. They put the work in. And oftentimes you don't see that. You don't see those things happen. Which is awesome with you in the podcast, right, man? Because you've been doing this for a while. How long have you been doing your podcast for?
This will be this is my 4th season now coming up.
So like you're saying right now, you're talking here at the beginning about you wanting to create like a more of like a vision or a purpose for it, or like how are you going to kind of look at it in a new way in 2023. I think I look at my podcast, right? That was 400 episodes. It was like 5 years. And I got to this place of like I know that I love doing this, but I don't know what I'm doing it for. So I think it's like that natural progression as you put time in. Podcasting's fun. It's a blast. Like it's really fun. Yeah. That's why I would just talk about whatever on my podcast, because I just like to get on a microphone and just talk about stuff.
That's right.
And have conversations with people. But then I'm like, damn, there's got to be more to this than just me chit chatting. But there is more to yours, because you are talking to influential people and you're talking about important subjects and things like that. So it's not like it's nonsense. Like there's definitely purpose to it.
Well, I think I definitely have purpose. Like when I have people on, for sure. And a lot of these questions, believe it or not, I tell people all the time, well, how do you come up with questions? I said, I don't write questions out before I do it. I kind of let them talk, and then I hear certain things, and I'm going to kind of elaborate on that. And then most of the time it's something that I am inadequate in my own life, to be honest with you. And I'm asking selfishly questions, right? Okay. Oh, I've struggled with this, and I'm a pretty transparent guy. I mean, I'm not, my vision of I shouldn't be writing a book. I never graduated any college, and people told me, when am I going to get a real job? And I had a martial arts school and all this kind of stuff. And
isn't that funny?
Today,
you're out there teaching people how to kill each other, and when you're going to get a real job. Like you talk about one of the most important things, to learn how to defend yourself.
Right. And so it hit me so hard. And then people that know and love you the most are usually your biggest critics. And then I tell everybody, you're not big until you're nobody until you're somebody. And then when you're somebody, everybody wants to do it. Nobody wants to, put that faith in you. And then today, so I have 700 black belts underneath me now, including tying a belt around President Reagan and John Wooden.
Get out of here.
Okay. I gave honorary black belts to President Reagan in his office on the East Wing. And
how did he get an honorary? Or did he take martial arts?
So here's the story of President Reagan. Okay. I put this in my book. I have a black belt. His name's E.C. McSweeney. It's just me capitalizing on something. And EC and I were very close. He's a surfer. He's my age. We were just talking one time, and I said, so EC, tell me about your family. And he goes, oh, my sister is married to Reagan's chief of staff.
Wow.
I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, she's married to his Mr. Reagan's chief of staff. And I'm like, huh. I said, what do you think President Reagan would take an honorary black belt? And he's like, well, what do you mean? He goes, can we go to his office, tie a black belt around his waist? I mean, who else could we give a better thing to than President Reagan for an honorary black belt?
How is that for business?
Right. And so it's well, back then, man, people were like, well, even like yourself right now, I don't know the auspiciousness of it until you kind of reflect back. Right. And so he asked his sister, and the chief of staff went to President Reagan, and they okayed it. And so I'm like, no way. So at the time I was married, right? And then Michael, my oldest, was like 2 or 3 years old. And I'm getting ready, and we gave the chief of staff an honorary black belt also, Smith. And then we're escorted in by Secret Service into the president's. And I'm walking into his office barefoot in uniform. Right. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm walking into President Reagan's office. And he is just this totally cool cat. Right. And he really takes to my son. And, he's given this yo-yo to my son and a couple other things. And I have a couple things that President Reagan gave me that day. And we just spoke a little bit. And I said, black belt, this is what it means. And I couldn't think of a better leader to tie an honorary black belt around. And then he goes, well, okay, you're going to have to show me how to punch or something before we do it, man. What do chop or what do we do? And so we're just kind of doing that and back and forth. And then I told him, I said, President Reagan, you're going to be, I said, I'm going to tell you something, but your son, Michael Reagan, used to go to the same church I do at Rocky Peak. And I taught your grandchildren martial arts.
Wow.
And he goes, no way. And I go, I did. I said, Michael Reagan used to bring his kids up, and when I was teaching at the church, and Secret Service would be up in there, but I taught your grandchildren. And he's like, no way. And so we just had this time, and I've got all those pictures of me and President Reagan and my son, grabbing him, trying to pull him down. And I've just recently, when my son got married a few years ago, I gave him a shadow box of everything that Reagan gave him that day. I kept it for him, a pen, a yo-yo, different things like that. But yeah, I got to put a black belt around President Reagan's waist.
How cool is that, man? I hope he never walked into a school hoping he had some skill, though. That'd be
He was a cool listen, he was a cool cat. We talked a little bit about his leadership, and what a black belt is, and this non-quit, and I wish. See, back then I didn't have the phones like it could. We didn't have it recorded. We had a lot of still pictures, but I'm like, God, I wish I had that recorded, man. I would give him anything to listen to his words of wisdoms that he gave me, because the same thing happened with John Wooden. When I got to give Coach John Wooden from UCLA, the coaches of coaches, he was awesome. I mean, he enjoyed getting a black belt so much, but afterwards he goes, okay, listen, you can ask me anything you want as a coach. And I did. I said, I got to quit. We were just sitting together by ourselves at the table. And I said, Coach, how do you take somebody that has super skill? I mean, you've coached some of the best basketball players in the world. How do you take somebody with skill and give them heart? I says, because I got some of the most skilled people, but their heart sucks, man. And he goes, sometimes, and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, sometimes, son, you got to give them a pat on the shoulder. And sometimes you got to swat their ass. And I was like, oh, shit. And I was like, that is some good advice, right? He just didn't, because you're all that doesn't mean you're all that is what he was doing. But those are those couple things in my world that was just like, wow.
Yeah, that's really good, right? That goes back to I talk a lot about the growth versus fixed mindset. And a lot of people are born with some amazing gifts, but if they don't have a growth mindset, those gifts don't really mean anything. They'll get them somewhat far, but the people who have the growth mindset, it doesn't matter if they have a gift or not, man. They're just going to work that thing until it becomes ingrained in them, and they're like just beyond an expert at it, because they want to continue to learn. They want to continue to grow. They believe in the potential of others. They believe in the potential of themselves. And any great leader, right? You were saying earlier about quitting. I forget exactly what we were talking about, but it was like, you can either quit and just quit, or you can quit to like start over and do something
right.
new.
You're right. You're either going to tap out. You're going to either find a way. You're going to tap out because you quit, or you're going to tap out so you can regroup.
My thought is, there's no option in me of tapping out, like as far as with what I'm doing. So I try to wrap my head around that, like, because I was stressed out a few months ago. My mom goes like, well, why don't you just quit? And I'm like, well, what am I going to do then? Like, what the hell am I going to do? Go get a job somewhere? So I think that's one of the things, and going back to my coaching, right? Seeing people who want to create something with their life. Once you start to create the thing and you start to look at life in a new way, you start to form your life in a new way and change your mindset, leaving that behind and going backwards. It's like, I could not imagine going and getting a job somewhere right now. I would lose my mind.
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I love, even though it's difficult, I love being able to create my own thing, being able to create my own day, being able to, like, if my son is off school, he can just hang out with me for the day. I might have to do some work, but he can just hang out because I'm here at the house, like just here. And I get to have these conversations, right? If I had a freaking job, I couldn't come on a podcast at noon on a Monday. Like, it's just not something you could do. Like, So I look at that situation of like, well, what's the alternative? Why would you quit? Why stop trying to get better? Why stop trying to create something amazing with your life? And I know we're going to wrap up here, but I wanted to say this because I was thinking about this earlier. Like in the Bible, you don't hear about people having jobs. Back in biblical times, people didn't have jobs. They had careers. They had occupations, right? Everybody had like an occupation. Like they did a certain thing. Now there were slaves, right? And there were like merchants, but there weren't jobs. People had their own business. And I think this is the most difficult part of society and something I've had to unlearn over the past 6 years. I've had to unlearn that job mentality of getting the paycheck, of, oh, I can come in today and just kind of screw off because I'm still getting paid. But when you eliminate that and you create your own thing, now it's on you. So no longer are you can screw off, but that means you're not going to have any money. And especially when you start thinking about the service aspect of it. Now, if I'm able to serve people and I feel like I'm called to serve people, if I'm screwing off all day long, am I still serving people? What am I doing in that day that's helping somebody? And I think about the whole culture we've been raised under are these jobs that we have, and these jobs are nonsense. Like a lot of jobs are nonsense, and you might be really skilled in your job, and you could probably take that job, whatever it might be, and you could go create your own thing out of it. But I think God created us to be creators. He gave us a creative mind because we are supposed to create things on our own. This world is built up and it thrives because of entrepreneurs. Without entrepreneurs and people going out and creating their own things, none of this stuff would be here. So if you're just working a job, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing to work a job. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying you need to have purpose to what you're doing. You need to have a vision for what you're doing. And if you do that, eventually it's going to pull you into a brand new part of your life that you could never imagine otherwise if you're just going to work every day and mindlessly collecting a paycheck. So I feel like there's so much importance in that. And I've learned that. So that's something I do like to really instill in people that I work with or talk to is you never know what your potential is if you don't challenge yourself. And so many people they're dying for it. They don't even know they're dying for it, but they're dying for it.
Yeah, that's good. I think we can end on that. So, Rob, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know what your website is, where they can reach you, and if they're looking for exactly that kind of coaching, what you're looking for. So go ahead and give everybody your.
So the website is leadimpacttransform.com. All my information's on there about coaching. My mastermind group's on there also. Michael Faber just checked in and said, "Let's go." What's up, man?
What's up, Mikey?
What's up, Mike?
I get to see him. I want to pull on that beard a little bit,
right? You know what I mean? we'll all be together this weekend, I guess.
Yes, we are. I'm flying out. I'm going to go in early. I'll be there. I'm leaving Wednesday morning at 5:45 a.m. because I'm going to go with Emilio. He's going to pick me up from the airport. I'm going to go do the Rocky Steps. Even with a bum knee and a fake knee, I said I'll hold onto your shoulder and get my way up there. So
awesome, dude. That's so cool. When are you guys doing that? What day?
Wednesday late afternoon.
Wednesday. Okay, cool. That'll be fun. Enjoy that.
So I'm going to be there. So I'll be there. So if you're going to be there, yeah. So you and I will make sure that we have some coffee time and stuff together for sure, man. Definitely. Because and a matter of fact, bring your uniform because I'm bringing my uniform. If you want to get a workout in a little bit, let's
really?
Do it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll bring my gi. Yeah, man.
Yeah, bring your gi because I already told a couple of other ones that I'll teach a martial arts class. Maybe we can get Faber in there because he needs a little bit of self-defense. He says he's a lover, not a fighter. I think that we can banter him around. He looks like the tough guy though, right? With the beard and the whole line, right?
Let's get unleashed in there, Mike.
Right,
come on,
let's
bro.
Go. And so I think that if you bring a uniform, I'm gonna look at that. He said he would.
All right.
Remember, Michael. Listen, he's talking shit now. Listen to this. Okay.
You can wear the sweatsuit, Mike. You can wear that sweatsuit.
Remember something, Michael Faber. White belt lives don't matter, bro. But if you bring a uniform, yeah, I'm Juanita and stuff's there, and I'm
Yeah.
going to work with her a little bit on some stuff anyway. But if you got a uniform, I'd love to get a workout in. I mean, we can roll a couple rounds and just get a workout in. So
Yeah, let's
if you
do
want
it.
to
That'd
go,
be awesome.
it's been okay. Well, we'll find a place around there to do that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sure Faber got a suite anyway. We can go up to his room.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Just bring
You
the
know,
mat.
he's the high roller. You know, he's the
Um,
Mac Daddy.
Okay, I'll be getting there Thursday, like afternoon
Okay.
at some point.
Yeah. So I'll be there already, and I'll reach out to you after this is all done, and then we'll set some time up. But bring your uniform with you, because I'll find time. We'll find some time to, because I ain't gonna be drinking and partying up. You know, I don't do any of that stuff. So, you know, we'll find some time together. Sound good?
Cool. Sounds definitely. That'd be
right.
awesome.
All right. Well, I'll have all that stuff. We'll have this thing out for.
He's really.
Dude, he's this is the typical keyboard warrior right here.
It really is.
It is. You know what I mean? I'm behind this computer. I'm going to talk all kinds of shit, and then when we get in front of him, then it's going to be a different differng animal.
I have to pay him back for knocking me off that chair in musical chairs. We were playing musical chairs at Jesse Cruz's retreat. He bulldozed me hard, so he's got some payback coming.
I saw that game. I saw it, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, listen to it. See you guys soon, sweethearts." Oh, Mike.
Oh my
Be careful what you wish for. Okay. So Rob took a woman out and blamed me.
That's it. There's video proof, brother. The video's out there.
This is what I like. See, and another one I like to talk smack with is Jose. I told Jose to bring his uniform too, because he is a martial artist. Mike Faber just he's a keyboard warrior. He's not really a martial artist, but you know what I mean? He is a black belt. He's a black belt in talking shit. But
yeah, he really is.
So
he's proving it right now.
So that's good. All right. Well, I look forward to it, man. This is great, Rob. We'll get together this weekend. I'll see you guys out. I'm getting ready to fly out on Wednesday. I'll see you on Thursday, and bring your uniform, and we'll get some time in together. Sound good?
Cool. Great talking to you, Mark.
Man.
Thanks so much, brother.
We'll see you. Thanks, Mike, for chiming in. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
See you, Mike. See you.